Hello, happy Friday. We are live in Friday night and hope everybody is doing well. I see Shane Sousa is here, and we have this is just sort of my fun goof off Friday night hangout, just see what you guys are doing. Are we live? Is anybody there? So let's see, this is a B movie stream. So what does that mean? This is what I've run into. And I'm just the first thing is we need to do is get our definition straight, because I am not sure about definitions. Anima Rumpry and heck Cowpoke, good to see you. Hello. It's Anima Rumpery. No, Slidey Pie. And good to see you. Yes. So what is a B movie, and what are we talking about in categories? Because people, I think that maybe I'm confused. I don't know the right definition. That's probably the true. Yeah, technically, neo dark matter. That's what we're going to talk about. First of all, let's get our definition straight, right? What is a BA movie? Miami Spice, Lily, Porcelain Thunder. Good to see you. Yeah. So the thing is what I'm thinking is, I think it's a low budget movie, and the best B movies are low budget movies that are really good fun to watch. Now, some people put it as like movies that are just cheaply made and are funny to laugh at. Okay, excuse me. Actually, I don't really need these, do I? Because nobody's talking here. So I'll put these over here. So yeah, so that's kind of that's the way I would define when I'm talking B movies. And I have a list. I made up a list. I've been thinking about this week. Gives me something to think about that's fun, right? And B movies is one of them. And my son and I have actually been watching B movies. And he's over here. We might watch one afterwards if you come up with a new one that I haven't seen that's supposed to be really good. Yeah, so I'm talking low budget movies that are really good. Yes, Boosh, bad movie takes. That's right. Well, this is just my movie takes. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's just me, right? My opinion. But Boosh, everybody ragged on me, and I think Boosh was number one for bumping on Predator, right? Because I'm not my favorite movie. I like the machine gun scene. See, everybody remembers the machine gun scene, and that's it. But the rest of the movie's kind of boring. I don't know. That's just me. So yeah. You weren't. No, you were all right. It's all in good fun, and you all took it right. It took it in this spirit. It's not that I don't like it. That wasn't one of the bad ones. That wasn't a horrible movie, right? So, okay, but B movies are, I think, low budget movies that are entertaining in some way. They're good. You can watch them, and it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if the budget's low. It's like a really good movie. Yeah, The Warriors. That's one. Cowpoke. I don't know about Warriors. I haven't seen Warriors, and my son recommended that we watch that the other night. We didn't watch that. We watched another one, which we'll talk about. All right, so I'm going to put it on the list. So your comments. This is interactive here. All right, so we have an interactive thing. So I want your. So it's David Nelson. That's you. So you tell me. And actually, I have a sidekick who's going to be coming on, and my sidekick is going to help out. Now I have my list and my perspective, and see, we should probably start over because he didn't hear the definition section. Okay, in the definition section, see, he gave me a list of movies, and they were all like really bad movies, like movies that were enjoyable because they were so bad, I think. But let's introduce, I'll tell you, one of the nicest guys on the internet, for sure. And let's be clear on this. Kindness and niceness is way underrated in this world. I fully appreciate somebody who's got a good heart and is a classy guy and is a good person. And who am I talking about? Why, the one and only Kaizer Pineapple. Well, now I've got to put my headphones on, right? So introduce yourself, Kaizer, to those who don't know. You're muted, I think. Muted. Hello. Kaiser's not. See there? Pineapples can't talk. Oh, all right. We're having technical difficulties. So while he's muted and doesn't have anything to say, see, now he has to listen to me. So the definitions we're talking about are low budget movies that are really good and worthwhile. Okay. Oh, there's another one. Cowpoke. That's a good one. I'm not sure. Up there you go.
I don't know why. I've been having all kinds of software issues. It's like everything was connected. So I'm like, what is going on? But no. Okay, I
Okay,
want to be
so
very, very clear.
what is your definition of B movies? Like
Okay.
best B. When I say what are their best B movies, what are you thinking?
Okay, so when we're talking about B movies, we're talking about something that's a bit more low budget. But there's two kinds of B movies. There's the so bad it's good B movies, and then there's the actual ones where there is heart and care and they're trying, even though if their budget or their ability may not be quite there, and it does something. So
Okay, I'm this
now,
stream. My opinion is category 2. I'm not one of
right.
those that enjoys category 1.
So let me just be completely upfront. The list that I gave you was what I consider category 2 B movies.
Okay, all right.
So these are not the so bad it's good. These are not, the Miami connections,
Right.
that kind of thing. No,
Yeah, Plan
these
9
are
from outer space.
no, this is not Plan 9. I'm giving you legitimate movies that I thought were B movies, maybe didn't have the highest budget, but were actually made with care and actually tried to do something interesting with the subject matter. Those were the criteria that you wrote to me, and I made sure to stick to those movies. Like, so those were the movies that I gave you.
Yes, well now, and if you note, see, I have Summer Friend up in the corner for my little.
Yes,
You
I
see
see
that?
that.
And I really think Summer Friend would make a great B movie. Like
Oh, that'd be
it's
good.
yeah, because it would be very inexpensive to film, very simple, very few actors. I can visualize it as a script. And so if any movie producers out there want to license the Summer Friend, contact me through my contact page at stevegosney.com. But yeah, okay. And the first, I kind of want to clear out the underbrush, and this is where I want to start. And that is
Sure.
that I think that there's one of the reasons it's low budget or people do these movies is because, all right, let's do a movie, but we don't have a lot of money. So what can we do? And I'm thinking horror. So I think there's a big category of B movies
Oh
that
yeah.
are horror movies that are
Yeah, they're
low
cheap.
budget,
Yeah.
they're cheap to make, but some of them are actually pretty good. So
Yeah.
that was, and when I started listening to B movies, I had a whole stack of them that were inexpensive, cheap movies, but that I think are worthwhile seeing. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick that off, and in
Okay.
honor of the great David Lynch, who's a true
Yeah.
artist. Now, and I will say this is a very disturbing movie, but it's called Eraserhead.
Oh, yes, Eraserhead.
Now, my son
That's a
loves that
classic.
movie, and I guess it's a disturbing.
It is a wild one, that's for sure. And by the way, cheers to the late great David Lynch.
Yes, cheers to David Lynch. Mm. But this was a very, very low budget movie. I think it cost $10,000 to make.
Well, and he also shot the movie over the course of like 5 years, just as he would get money, like to buy more film stock and stuff. So, yeah, credit to the actor who plays the main character in that movie for keeping his hair like that for 5 years straight. I mean, holy moly.
It's actually, I heard it's a disturbing movie, but it's a
Oh yeah.
disturbing take on the fears of fatherhood, which is interesting.
Fatherhood, the movement from, just kind of like being in this space to adulthood, commitment, relationships. Yeah, all of that. And it's done through this very dreamlike, very almost kind of, in a way, almost this kind of psychedelic post-apocalyptic sort of vision, just
Right.
because, the industrial landscapes, the black and white. David Lynch does this really cool thing with like buzzing, like electronics and stuff
Yeah,
like that. With like
it's
Mhm.
disturbing.
It's
So I would put it in the horror movie category.
Yeah, I
And
would say that
it's
kind of fits.
and I would say that is a very disturbing, very horrific movie. So, and it's definitely not for everybody. But I will
No.
honor David Lynch by putting him first and to say that one thing I love about the guy, he is a true artist. This is an artist
yeah.
who is following his artistic vision, and we don't appreciate that out. We may be disturbing to you. It may be not your cup of tea, but here's my you want to hear the experts in the chat? I want to give my expert impression
Oh,
I'm
there we
working
go.
on, right? So it's
Hey,
like,
expert.
hey, expert, man, how you doing, man? Oh, look, the white rabbits over here, man. What's going on? All right. How's that? Is that pretty good?
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. That's the expert. I love the expert. Here he's
Oh
in
yeah,
Jim.
he's a great guy.
We
I
all
love
got to hang
expert
out
so
in
much.
Tennessee.
Oh, that was
Okay.
so much fun.
So let's launch. I'll bet you I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9
Okay.
horror movies. So, but you fire one off. I'm sure you're going to hit one on this list.
Okay. So I'm just gonna throw one out there. I mean,
Horror.
if we're going for the horror genre, I know this is kind of one. It's a bit of a divisive take, but I love it for its sheer audacity to do what it did, and actually the how much of an indelible part of pop culture it's become, and we don't even really think about it. And that is going to be 1985's Return of the Living Dead. Now, this
Okay.
is
There we go.
now okay. All all props to Night of the Living Dead, the original low budget horror flick. I mean, the original zombie movie. That movie, I can't even include it necessarily in B movies, even though technically it was kind of a low budget B movie because it was so good. But if you're asking me for like what is a B movie, like a kind of
No,
a
but see, but that's
yeah,
not you're blowing the criteria because to me the
okay,
low budget and the fact that it's great because see I
yeah,
have a Living Dead movie on here, but I
okay.
have Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, we watched Dawn of the Dead just like a couple nights ago.
Oh,
And so
cool.
of the Dawn of the Dead movies, my favorite so far that I've watched is Dawn of the Dead. Now, I understand
Okay.
Night of the Living Dead is the original, and that's the lowest budget. But I
Yeah.
think that, but as far as just entertainment value, Dawn of the Dead is better. But
Okay.
it's fun. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's actually it's humorous. It's got a lot to it that
Yeah.
it's not just horror. So
Yeah. So one of the things I love about Return of the Living Dead specifically is it really captured that kind of that sort of wave of the punk rock sort of aesthetic that was really prevalent in the 80s. A lot of very punk rock type of characters. It was a bit more divisive, and in a way it was almost kind of nihilistic in some ways. But what's funny is that John Russo, who made the movie, was actually the co-creator and co-producer of Night of the Living Dead, the original with George Romero. And so he retained the rights to the of the Living Dead part of the name, but he didn't retain the rights to the rest. And so that's why whenever Romero went on, he did Dawn of the Dead, Land of the Dead. It just became Of the Dead, whereas Of the Living Dead, those movies went on under Russo's name. But Russo is also credited with Alien, even though technically what he did was turned in the script and they did a page one rewrite. That's a whole other story. But anyway, what I love about Return of the Living Dead is because they take the zombie genre that was set up in the first movie and they do this really clever subversion where they're the characters, Billy and I want to say Frank. Yeah, Billy and Frank are sitting in the office. They're talking. And, Frank looks over at Billy and is like, so you ever see that movie, Night of the Living Dead? He's like, yeah. He's like, did you know that movie was true? But they changed some of the things because the guy who made it was like told by the government if he spilled his guts and told everybody, about all the everything that really happened, they just, take him out. And so there's like, that's how they get into this little situation of like, everybody remembers that movie and they try to take care of the zombie problem with that mentality of like, oh, that's how they did it in that movie. And they're like, wait, the movie lied. So yeah, when they destroy the brain, it doesn't kill them. And they just keep coming until the movie ends with them nuking, spoiler alert, a major city.
Well, that's actually
And yeah,
Stephen had recommended we were going to watch that one, and
yeah,
he said it was more horrific
it
than
definitely
Dawn of the
was. They really leaned into it. The Tar Man is still my favorite zombie of all time.
Yeah.
That's just
So
a whole
Stevie,
other thing.
Kaizer likes Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, the punk rock.
That movie's funny.
Yeah, so
Yes.
he likes it. So we might have to watch that one. All right, so let me chime in. So I'm going to pick Dawn of the Dead. You pick Return of the Living Dead, and then of course the original Night of the Living. So of the Living Dead
Okay.
people,
Yeah,
We'll go with that.
they're all good movies, but I mean, yeah, if you had to ask my favorite of those, just for kind of it's fun with the aesthetic, I got to go with that one. But
Now,
yes, I very much love I very much love Land of the Dead.
yeah,
Sorry,
there's a lot of people entered chat here. We've got
gone.
David Nelson with Kathy here, and lots of Karen Cole, legal-minded Karen Cole, J.K. Buck, lots of good
Nice.
people here in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
So good to see you all, and I'm not ignoring you. Put your movies in the chat if you want to participate.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. I saw somebody mention Manos: The Hands of Fate, which is like one of the worst B movies ever made. It's like that's one of those like so bad that it's just kind of wackadoo.
That's not what we're talking about here.
It's not doesn't fall within the criteria, but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I will say I am not of that. I don't like that. I mean, I can't say I don't enjoy bad movies. So if I'm watching, these are movies that I enjoy by sitting down. The fact that like they're so bad, it's like, oh, I'm laughing. That I just never could get into that genre. But here's one that we watched last night, and it was because I've been prepping for this. My son and I have been talking like this, and he's like, well, watch this one. This is one that he says is one of his favorite movies.
Okay.
And it's a very disturbing movie. It's very low budget. And who's the director, Steven? Anyway, he's on his thing. And it's a movie called Martin. Have you ever heard Martin?
George Romero, Martin. Yes, that is a good one. That's a hard one to find. They haven't done a re-release very soon. That's a hard one to find.
We had to dig it up, but it's basically it's a very low budget movie.
Yes.
But the concept, the whole question is the guy a vampire, or is that all in his imagination? So there's lots of horrific kind of things that he does as an evil undead. But is he really an evil undead, or is he just imagining this is the motive? It's a psychological, and it's creepy because when it starts out with a very violent crime, right?
Yes.
And then there's lots of pedestrian kind of shots. But the thing is that all the pedestrian shots, there's this overlay of strangeness because you have this knowledge of what this guy's about, right? So it's fascinating because, and I was enthralled. It's a very cheaply made, low budget movie, but it's an enthralling movie. It's very well done, and I would definitely, if you like kind of a psychological horror, and it's a disturbing movie and it's a mystery, and you can debate it at the end whether he's a vampire or not, right? Have you seen Martin?
Yes, I have. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but yes, I'm familiar with that one. I love the constant back and forth between Martin and Kuda. Now, Kuda is supposedly his cousin who is older than him. Now, it does lean a little bit more credence to the fact that Martin may be a vampire because he's actually very old, but he looks very young. But the thing is, he doesn't have the fangs. He doesn't have the typical vampire tropes. And he's very disillusioned with the idea of, this, of kind of like faith and the overarching like religious narrative. He loves magic tricks, like illusions, stuff like that. But he loves to also pick it apart. Like when they're at the dinner table, he's showing like the little slip blade thing, trying to dispel the magic, so to speak. It's very core to his character. It's kind of interesting because
it's very and Freedom Ring showed up in the chat, and Freedom Ring is Buddy. She's a Florida person, cool. And we've been talking a little offline. Really, it's no problem. My book sales have just flatlined, and so I have some books, and I've occasionally somebody comes along and I think, what, they deserve a book, because they appreciate, because I want people to read them. That's why I write them.
Absolutely.
It's like you make these things because they want them to be appreciated. It's not a money-making venture. It's an appreciation venture. And if I make somebody a little happy by it, then I've done my job, right? So now I'm in the civil practice, and I'm going to be speaking in Arizona on trucking, on what's it called? Cool. The topic's called Technology on the Road and in the Courtroom. And I'm going to do it with a fellow who is a chief legal counsel of a big robotics firm that is an automated driving for trucks. And he's going to do the technology in the road. I'm going to do the technology in the courtroom, which is and actually Freedom Ring. I'll send you a sneak preview of the motion I did. I think you do that type of law, right? Volstrom's here too.
Hey, Volstorm, what's up, buddy?
And Pyramid 7, got lots of nice folks here.
So
we're talking
crew, yeah.
We're talking B movies that are worth watching, not the bad movies that are so bad they're good. And so we're talking horror to start it off. So I pick Martin. Now go ahead. We've had Eraserhead, the Dead movies. So Return of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Night of the Living Dead. We kind of grouped those together. And then I said, Martin, do you have another one that you might fall in the horror genre that would be a good B movie horror movie?
So, I mean, I probably do have another one of those, but I have one that I'm kind of itching to talk about and it bridges so many gaps. And it's a really interesting one because it's kind of a supernatural revenge movie as well as a bit of a horror movie. There's some mystery involved, but it's also just kind of it's kind of Fast and the Furious before the Fast and the Furious ever existed. It's a very weird one. Yeah, this is the one I gave you the full write-up on. So,
okay. Go ahead, spit it out.
This one is one of my absolute all-time favorites. Like, I legitimately love this movie because I think it does not get as much credit as it deserves. And that is 1986's The Wraith, starring Charlie Sheen, Nick Cassavetes, Sherilyn Fenn, and Randy Quaid. So, very cool movie. Very, very brief synopsis. So a young man, he dies. He's killed by a street gang of racers, and basically to get his girl. Well, about a year later, he comes back from the dead, but he's got a new body, different look, and he's tied to this car. This car basically is what's keeping him there, but he has to get revenge on the members of the street gang that killed him in order to basically not move on, but to allow him to permanently stay on Earth again. So it's a revenge movie. It's a little bit of supernatural. There's some horror elements to it, but it's also a racing and action movie. It's so many things wrapped up into one. It would feel claustrophobic, but they do such an interesting job in that one. And yeah, it's a bit of a technical achievement. Yeah.
The Wraith is the name of the movie. I have not seen this one, and you had recommended we are going to watch it, but it's got like a really bad Rotten Tomatoes review.
Yeah, it is absolutely gets savaged on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't understand why, because I legitimately love this movie.
Okay, I mean, Neo Dark Matter is chiming in that we're doing horror, but we're doing horror movies up first because there's a lot of B movies that are good that are horror. It's because it's cheap to make. It's easy to make cheap movies that are horror, right? I mean, there's not a lot of budget. So, okay, I'm going to start rocking it here, and this is an easy one that we'll get to eventually, but it's called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which is kind of the original horror B movie, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Toby Hooper, 1974.
It is a scary movie, and it's very primitive, very B movie, but very scary. And of course, so if you want to just like have a pure horror movie, it's better than hot big budget movies. Really, I mean, it's scarier because could be true, right? I mean, it's like that's the whole point. It's so creepy and kind of right there, right?
The family in that movie, they're so legitimately crazy that almost kind of turned me off to the movie, just because it's like they're like almost too crazy.
Yeah.
But then you kind of think about it, and it's like you think about it, and it's like that almost makes sense in a way, just that they are that utterly psychotic.
Right.
And then you see kind of what they're in there.
Not for everyone. Horror is not for everyone. And I'm not a big horror fan, but if I'm going to watch horror, if I really that I would say that's a good horror movie. Okay, so there's do you have another choice? We're just gonna keep rocking it until we run out here.
Okay, so I mean, as far as horror movies go,
Yeah.
I was like I don't I'm kind of out of those. I don't really have any
Okay, well, here,
specific.
let me
Oh wait,
throw a few
actually, you
out.
know what?
Hmm?
Never mind. I forgot. I do have a horror movie, and I actually have it right here.
Ah,
I totally forgot. I bet I even had this one. And this is a very good horror movie, and it's actually quite topical because it's got a sequel coming out this year, and that is 28 Days Later.
I have not seen that one.
Oh, this is the movie that redefined the zombie genre. And it's I actually kind of hate the fact that it's called a zombie movie because it's technically not a zombie movie.
Mhm.
Because the people are it's actually people who are alive, but they're infected. And yeah, so very general premise. Guy wakes up after being in a coma for 28 days, and he wakes up in London. It's actually played by Cillian Murphy, and he comes to in an abandoned hospital, and then starts wandering around. Finds out that there's been this giant pandemic that has shut Great Britain off from the world, and the populace is raving like bloodthirsty, infected rage monsters now, basically. And it's a quest of survival, and it's actually I mean, it's one of my favorites. It's very low budget, but yeah, great acting, great characters, and yeah, it's just got a lot of heart for such a low budget movie.
Okay, well, here's one that's I don't know how horror it is, but I'll put it on this list. I'll put it here, and
Okay.
it's a movie called They Live.
Oh,
Yes, that's a
yes.
great one, and it's
John Carpenter,
it's Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper, and Keith David.
Oh my gosh, and just for the fight scene in the
Oh
middle,
God, that that
the
alleyway fight scene.
the
Yes.
alleyway fight scene, it goes on for like 10 minutes, and they're pulling all these wrestling moves. It's kind of come out of nowhere, and it's hilarious.
They
And
fight. Yeah, they fight and they fight and they fight and they finally just get so tired they kind of look at each other like, "Oh, we're tired." I still
yeah, I
say that
love
movie
that one.
has my favorite line of any B movie, though.
What's that?
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass,
Oh, right.
and I'm all out of bubble gum.
So yeah, I love that. So that's a very good movie. That's a very
Yes.
good movie, and it's not completely horror, but it's a very good B movie. Okay, so
Yep.
that's They Live. Now there's here's a bunch that I got four more that I wouldn't recommend, but other people may. All right, because now the first one is Rocky Horror Picture Show, and people like
Okay.
say, I don't really like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I don't
Okay,
either.
but it's a B movie and it's a horror movie theoretically, and
Technically.
and it's obviously a lot of people. There's a cult following. I got, but the reason I put it on here not only is because it's one of the, but I have a Rocky Horror Picture Show story. When I was
Okay.
in when I was in college, because I didn't know Rocky Horror Picture Show. In college, it was different. There wasn't all these movies, and there was Rocky Horror was playing in the Athens Theater in DeLand. I went to Stetson
Okay.
undergrad, and it was playing at the Athens Theater, which is this old timey theater, two-story. It had a big balcony, and and people were like, oh, Rocky Horror's coming to the Athens. We got to go see it. And all the college kids went there, and it was nuts. There were people that they were all dressed up, and they had the squirt guns and the thing, and they start playing this, right? But I'm telling you, it turned violent. There
Oh
was these
wow.
people had these big pizza pans that were like steel pizza pans, and they were
Oh wow.
flinging them from the top of the thing and flying down onto the stage. And then people were, it started getting nuts. And
Oh
right
wow.
about halfway through the movie, somebody let off a chemical fire extinguisher,
Oh
and it was
no.
and it was like that yellow chemical dust just filled the
Mhm.
theater, and everybody went flying out, and that was the end of the movie, man. And so it was crazy. So I don't know. I have seen it since, and not my
Okay.
favorite thing, but there you go.
So
That's
I do have
Rocky
a
Horror.
I have a weird Rocky Horror Picture Show like story as well. And this is weird. So I have technically seen the movie twice.
Mhm.
I don't remember the movie. So here's how this kind of thing like happens. So in college, I was hanging out with this group, and some of the girls in our group wanted to go back to their apartment, watch Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm like, I'm a young guy. I'm a young college guy. I'm like, okay, any excuse, fine, whatever. And so allegedly, as the story goes, I mean, there was some drinking, but not very much at all. And I was not a big drinker anyway. So we went back to their apartment, and apparently they were like, oh, hey, let's watch this movie. And they put it on. Now, my memory of that night ends right as soon as that movie came on. And I woke up the next day in my bed, and I like talked to one of my roommates the next day. I'm like, so what happened last night? And he goes, yeah, it was weird. Like, you didn't drink that much, but you, like, as soon as the movie turned on, you just zoned out and, didn't do anything, just completely just deer in headlights. And then movie ended, you got up, you left, you went to bed, and that's it. I'm like, that's weird. And now, see, here's the weird part. Because a couple of years ago, it was, I think, I think it was 2021. So we were actually, some friends of ours invited us to and there was an outdoor movie theater. We have like a drive-in down here, and they are doing a double feature, which we'll get into my second, my second like horror pick. Actually, I just thought of this. So me and the wife go, and we're going with a whole bunch of her friends. And we watched this double feature. First movie, which I'll talk about in a minute. Remember everything, fine. Everything's good, no problem. Rocky Horror Picture Show comes on. Bam, my memory is gone again. I had nothing to drink. I had nothing going on. I was just sitting there, and they just all looked at me, and like, I remember we got there. I remember blanking out. And I remember pulling in the driveway. I remember coming to in the driveway with the steering wheel in my hand. And my wife was like, are you okay? I'm like, how'd we get home? Aren't we supposed to watch another movie? And she goes, you watched the entire movie with us like a deer in headlights. And then you got up, got in the car, started the car. We drove home without a single friggin' word. And then here we are. Like, she's like, don't you remember that? I'm like, I have no memory of that at all. So I am convinced that that there is something going on with that movie that is trying to make sure it erases itself from my brain. I have no idea what that is.
Sorry, I mean, like, this is
Anyway,
there's things going off to my right. I'm sorry. This is the problem. Okay. So here's some more that and there's some good ones in the chat that I want to bring up that I haven't seen, and I'd like your commentary on one. But here's a couple. Would you qualify these as B movies that are good? Okay. First is Halloween.
Okay.
John Carpenter. What's the budget?
1978, John Carpenter. Yeah. Halloween. I mean, it's kind of the prototype for the slasher genre. And I mean, yeah, it is a B movie, but I think that it was actually pretty well done. I would count it.
Yeah. Okay. And then how about Friday the 13th? Same.
See, Friday the 13th. Yeah, I will say that definitely falls into the proper genre there too, like you're talking about, because it actually succeeds at being a good horror movie. It succeeds at actually building tension. It may have a low budget, but everything that it sets out to do, it actually succeeds in doing, and it does so earnestly, not with this air of, like you said, so bad it's good. I think that.
Okay, now here's a movie that I just cannot stand.
Okay,
but I think, but obviously, I'm in the vast minority because a lot of people, it's called Blair Witch Project.
Actually, I'm not a big fan of that movie either. I think that it's actually, they're trying to do something. I think that it's interesting, like when you get down into how it kind of created the found footage genre, how it kind of tried to do what it did. And then I think that, unlike some movies where they're trying to do the so bad it's good thing, I think that movie was earnest. I think they tried to actually make it a good horror movie, but it just wasn't.
Hated them all. I hated every character.
Yeah,
I wanted them all to die.
Yeah,
they're so annoying. Here's some people in the Yeah, exactly. Boosh. See there, we got it. Now we're back in sync, Boosh. See
Yeah.
there, that I agree with
Okay.
this, but I threw it
That was
out there
very
because
much
this
viral
is a
marketing.
conversation, and we're talking with the chat here, and you guys and so I've been following. I think don't have all of them, but here's some from the chat.
Okay.
Hellraiser.
Actually, believe it or not, I have not seen Hellraiser.
I have not seen Hellraiser either. Okay, so let's
Okay.
move on. Night of the Hunter. Do you know that one?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, how about
That's
this
weird.
one? The Lawnmower Man.
Okay, Lawnmower Man. I know that one. Pierce Brosnan. Yeah, that was. I remember
Is that
that.
a B movie though?
I really wouldn't classify it as a B movie though, because this was Pierce Brosnan in the mid 90s. So I mean, it was not a cheap get to get him in that movie. And it was really groundbreaking with trying to use CGI. So I mean, I would not consider Lawnmower Man to be a B movie.
Okay,
I
well, it
mean,
had
it
too much of a
is,
budget then, and
it
The
had too much.
Fly. The Fly. I don't know if we're talking about the
Original or
Vincent.
remake?
See, that's it. Because now the remake is spectacularly scary, but I think it's a bigger budget movie.
Yes, it was definitely a bigger budget movie. You had Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and I mean that movie.
Yeah, so I don't categorize. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, so
No.
All right, so I'm going to move on from our horror genre. That's a lot of horror. Okay, so let's just
That is.
recap: Eraserhead, Martin, Dawn of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, right? They Live, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You added 28 Days Later, and They Live. And then with a side note of Halloween and Friday the 13th. So that's a pretty good B movie horror list of excellent B movies that are
and The Wraith, yeah.
Okay. And The Wraith, right? We had that. I haven't seen The Wraith, so
yeah, need to watch that one. I think it's a good one. It's my favorite B movie.
All right, highly recommended by the Pineapple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to okay, this is sort of a collection of this is what I would call huge hits that they probably unexpected low budget movies that became huge hits that people would say that's not a B movie because that's a huge hit. All right, you get the concept there, right? And then
that's
the
a
budget
little bit trickier, yeah.
Yeah. Here's I'm going to throw out the big one, the big movie. It had a $1 million budget, which I would say is low budget in the scheme of Hollywood. It's called Rocky. Okay. Now, if I said Rocky was a B movie, you'd say no way. But Rocky is a B movie. Rocky is a low budget movie that was great.
Oh, yeah.
Great. And I mean, that is like spectacular. That shows you that you don't need to spend billions of money on a movie to make a great movie, right?
Well, I mean, back then, I mean, yeah, a lot of the studios, I mean, they would bankroll on a lot of these smaller, more independently funded or basically independent ideas. They were more willing to take risks and stuff like that back then. Whereas today, I mean, it's sequels and reboots and rehashes. It's like anything that doesn't have like name recognition or a guaranteed selling point typically doesn't get made. But yeah, back then it was a little bit easier to do that. And sometimes, you would have a lower budget movie that actually was not only extremely, well done, but also one that was, it just hit on a nerve. And that was one of the rare things that Rocky did. And I actually, in that category, I have two movies, which
give me one.
Now I'll say this one because this is not a movie that I'm really a big fan of, but I respect what it did. And I also respect the fact that it was made on a shoestring budget of only about, I think, $250,000. And it went on to do 94 million at the box office during its initial run and has since gone on to become a literal sequel machine and has gone on to massive success at Warner Brothers. And I speak of none other than the movie Paranormal Activity.
Okay, that's not on my list.
Paranormal Activity is very much of it's definitely a B movie. The guy that made it, he was like a lawyer. He bankrolled it himself, or I think it was like I think it was like $250,000, something like that. And he ended up making that movie and then like sold it, like tried to shop it around, and he sold it to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers bought it for like, a couple million, and then went on to make 94 million at the box office. It was massive. And then it's gone on to spawn like dozens of sequels. Now, I mean, I'm not a fan of the movie. I don't like it, but I respect what it's trying to do. And the reason I don't like it is because it's a bit too good at its job. It's a little too scary, but it also does something. The ending is a bit crud with like the jump scare part that I didn't like, but otherwise it's actually kind of interesting. It's at least interesting what they tried to do with it.
I have a better one that's more in line with this category. And actually, I've been pre the chat got it first, and David Nelson is ahead. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, that is a classic.
That's another one that I just love. Now that I've had people say they don't like that movie, but I think it's one of the funniest movies of all
fun, though.
I can watch it over and over and over. Yeah. And it's a very low budget movie.
Very.
It's spectacular. It's all about the writing and the delivery, the acting, I mean, it's perfect. And I tell you, that is a great movie. And so that's one that, if you said, of course, you would probably say, yes, that's a low budget movie. But with as far as its impact, you got to say, oh, there's MLS came over. Good to see.
Hey, what's up, MLS?
Holy Grail is amazing. You got it. That's right. Yeah, I followed your general direction. Right. That's funny. So, Holy Grail would be one. I've got a few here. So let's keep going. You have have another one. What is it?
So I'm gonna stick with a B movie. Low budget. It was almost ended up at one point ruining a director's career. But that director didn't take no from anybody and ended up, despite all the hardships, managing to make a movie on a small $3 million budget that has gone on to become the definition of what we know today as the summer blockbuster. And I speak of course, 1975 Jaws.
That's interesting. Okay, I wouldn't think that of a B movie, but you could be correct.
It was actually very low budget, made on $3 million. And I mean, it was a studio movie, but it was one of those where the studio was very much like, we have this idea, we found this concept that we like, we need somebody to direct it, and we need somebody to write it. Well, the guy who wrote the original book that Jaws was based off of, he tried to write the script, and he was like, I don't like this. This is not going the way I want. So he gave it to Spielberg, and I think a couple of other guys rewrote it, and they made it work. But yeah, they really, I mean, this movie was only supposed to have like 50 days of shooting, and it went on for over 150. And by the end of it, everybody was so mad at Spielberg. They thought it was going to flop and ruin everybody's career that they actually were threatening to throw him off the boat, like after they finished filming the last shot. So Spielberg actually, when they were going to film the last shot, it started a tradition where he left the set. And so somebody else filmed the last scene of the movie for him. And so that's kind of been his thing ever since, is that he doesn't film the last scene of the movie.
Well, I remember when Jaws came out, my brother was way into it. He was obsessed with sharks. We had shark books. And when Jaws 2 was being made, we actually went over to Panama City and went and saw the sharks, the mechanical sharks, and saw the filming of Jaws 2 over in Panama City, Florida. So that was pretty cool when I was a kid. Okay, well, so that's a good one, Jaws. Here's one that everybody's beat me in the chat, but that's okay. This is part of the fun, right? And here, who has it got it? Who has got my? Let me put star here. Okay, Lady Autumn Sky, Napoleon Dynamite. Now, I know that there's some people that are not big Napoleon Dynamite fans, but that movie, when I first saw it, it was like, what? The more I watched it, the more I liked it. And it's hilarious. Now I just think it's one of the funniest things ever. So, and Napoleon Dynamite is a low budget B movie.
It definitely is that.
but it's very good. So I'll put that one on there. Do you have another one in this kind of category of ones that you wouldn't suspect are B movies but might be? In fact, I'm going to let you take over. I got to take a break. Hold on a second.
Yep, go right ahead. So I'm trying to think of another one that would be kind of like classified as like it's a low budget movie, but it ends up being, you know, a bit of a sleeper hit and like being a big one there. So the problem is I've got like all these movies back here on my shelf, and I cannot like I'm thinking of it, and I'm not really pulling up anything mentally right now. I should have come up with like a different list. I mean, I've got a little bit of a list here, but like, so yeah, sleeper hits. Okay, you know, I'm gonna. That's a tough one. Let me actually look in my repertoire here. I have a bunch of like those kinds of movies on my Plex server. Okay. Yeah, Mad Max was the original Mad Max was shot on a very small budget. I will admit though that I did not like the original Mad Max as much as I did the sequel, The Road Warrior. I thought The Road Warrior was better. It was a much better idea. I'm trying to think of another
So your
one.
pick was Mad Max.
Somebody brought that up in chat.
Mad Max. We just watched that actually, and it's not a very good movie. The original, the first one, the second one, The Road Warrior, is
Road Warrior, much better.
The first one is truly a B movie.
Oh yeah, very much.
But see, people don't understand. You young kids don't understand this. And I was trying to explain this to my son. Is that when you were my age and you were growing up, it was like 13 channels of cable, and late at night they played like, you know, you'd see, oh, what's on, and there's nothing on, and then there's, oh, what's this, oh, it's Mad Max, oh, we gotta watch it. And so you watch it just to see like the one scene where it's got the turbocharger, and you know, so it's like, you know, it's just a different thing when we were growing up, because it wasn't like you had everything at your tip, that's the whole world. So it was a cool movie for what it was at the time, right? Now it doesn't hold up over time. So that's the problem with Mad Max. But what was your pick? I missed something.
So, okay. Actually, I had to go back to everything, because I'm like, I have my little list over here, but like for sleeper hits, I got to be honest, I was kind of drawing a blank on those. Just try to go back to kind of looking at, see if I've got anything on there that would kind of hit home.
Well, here's one. I've got one right here.
Yeah,
okay?
You know what? Go ahead and check that out while I'm going to go back to my shelf.
The chat is nailing it. Okay, and here we got Stephen Evans has got another one. Enter the Dragon. Okay,
I have that on my shelf. Yeah,
that was a B movie, but obviously Bruce Lee and the whole thing and the legendary movie, right? Yeah, Blues Brothers doesn't count. That's not a B movie.
Okay? Yeah, $27 million in 1981 was a lot more expensive.
Yeah, no, that was a big budget movie. Enter the Dragon is a B movie that is very entertaining, worth watching, fun. And it's not the greatest movie, you know, but it's a fun movie. It's like, you know, you've watched all the great movies and you're looking for good movies that you might not hear. Okay, well, here's one. Stephen Evans nailed it. Enter the Dragon. It's on my list. So I'm going to scratch that one off. And this is sort of like, you know, when you say Enter the Dragon, most people wouldn't think of that as a B movie because they think, oh, that was a huge, you know, that was Bruce Lee. That's this big, you know, everybody knows with the guy with the claw and, you know, the whole karate genre, it's the top of the heap. But when you really look at it, it's very much a B movie, right? Some people do say the original Star Wars was a B movie, but it was big budget, so I can't agree with that. You know, we're talking, it's got to be single figure million, maybe less than 5 million. You know, even less. So here's another one that's I'd say is a B movie. That is a huge movie that people would say, and I'd like Kaizer's opinion on this because you are really quite. I invited Kaizer on because like somebody thought he is the guy when it comes to these B movies, right?
I am kind of the movie guy.
Yeah, the movie guy. So I'm going to say Escape from New York.
Yes, that was on my list. I love Escape from New York. 1981. Yeah, Kurt Russell, and great performance by Lee Van Cleef,
Oh yeah.
Donald Pleasance. Also, very interestingly in that movie, um, I oh gosh, Isaac Hayes, fantastic as the
Oh, I
Duke of New
love
York.
Isaac Hayes is
Oh
great.
man,
Oh, with
Isaac Hayes
the chandeliers on the car,
on
you
the
know?
car, that's so cool. And then Harry Dean Stanton, Adrian Barbeau, really amazing lighting on that movie. That was actually one of those where I didn't really think about lighting so much, but like, and you actually see like those dark streets and you see the light like as it goes down. You see the wide I mean, it's actually kind of funny because like there's a scene where he's walking through the rubble of a building that's burnt down, and you can just see this wide open shot. That's actually shot in Missouri, like in St. Louis. It was a building that had burned down, and they just stuffed a couple of airplane parts in there to make it look like the crash site of Air Force One. And it was actually lit by Dean Cundy. The movie, like the lighting was done by Dean Cundy, who went on to do a lot of other movies, including believe it or not, oh gosh, Back to the Future. He did the lighting for that movie. He does commercials now and that kind of thing. But yeah, that was a really good one.
Well,
I love that movie.
Stephen Evans just picked one that I didn't have my list, but I should have. I can't believe I missed it. So let me put this one up. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh yes, and
That was a low budget, right?
I will go as far as to say that yeah, it might be a low budget, but it's if you want a low budget movie in the same genre that is actually the same, basically same everything, I would actually go with the original of the Dollars trilogy, which was A Fistful of Dollars.
Right?
Yep.
Well, so those were great movies, and I'd say those were B movies. And but
Mhm.
again, you don't think of them as B movies because they were so great and so iconic and excellent movies, right? But
Yep.
yet low budget. And this is I think there needs to be more of this, which is good writing, good acting, good directing, not a big budget. We don't need CGI in every movie. We don't
Yep.
need, let's focus a little more on story. So
I did get
so
another one I found that's
okay.
this one is one who turned out to be a sleeper hit, like what you were talking about.
Mhm.
It was shot on a very minuscule budget of only a couple, I think it was only like 200, it was like $200,000. And it's a one that everybody knows because it's gone on to have quite the reputation, and that is the original Evil
Oh,
Dead.
well, you're backsliding, but I'll let it slide. Okay.
I mean, that's all I've got. I mean,
Backsliding back into the horror genre here.
I mean, look, I was trying to find other movies, but I mean, I'm coming up. Yeah, the criteria was sleeper hits. I mean, I had to go back
Right.
to that one. I was trying to find like another one.
Well,
That I could
here's
think
one.
of.
Here's one that's sort of an interesting one that I'm going to throw out that you might not think of, but it's called Up in Smoke, the first Cheech
Okay,
and Chong
Cheech
movie.
and Chong, yeah.
And now that movie is hilarious. Now it's it's really funny. It's very low budget, but it's just funny, good all the way from beginning to end.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm going to throw out Up in Smoke too.
Okay.
As worthwhile to see B movie. I don't know if it was a big hit, so I don't know if people really think it was a B movie. Okay, all right. So we have a new category. Okay.
Okay.
So unless anybody else in the chat can think of anything that we're missing here, that this is like that are B movies that people don't think of because they're so big. And somebody mentioned one, and I have to admit, I haven't seen this movie. So I'm going to transition with this one. And a couple people have mentioned this in the chat. And it's a movie called Clerks.
Okay.
I have not seen Clerks.
I tried watching Clerks one time, like in college, long time ago. I couldn't get into it, but I would be willing to try and give it a second shake just because my tastes have changed a lot. I'm almost 40 now. I was barely 20 whenever I first saw it, so I probably would have a different eye for that movie.
Yeah, I probably need to watch that one, but a lot of people put that in the chat, but I'm going to scratch that one because I didn't see it, so I can't comment on it. Okay, so now here is a movie. All right, so now we're going to go into movies that are genuine B movies that are nobody would ever say were hits. All right, so
Okay.
we're not in the hit making factory, but are really good. They're good movies that you should watch, because this is the hardest of all, that aren't horror, that are just good movies that are like cheap. All right. And I'll
Okay.
kind of give you a feel for what I'm talking about. And I had Monty Python Holy Grail in there, but I took it out because I put it in the other category.
Okay.
And here's the iconic symbolic movie that fits in that category. Death Race 2000 with David Carradine and Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
All right. The original Death Race 2000. Have you ever seen that?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's a really good movie. And
I've heard of it. I just haven't seen it. Yeah.
Now I think there was a remake or something, but the original.
Yeah, Jason Statham did win that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even bother with it, but yeah.
Yeah, so Kaizer, you need to watch that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
And it's got these race cars, and it's kind of a concept movie that they race and you kill for points. So they run people over. There's different points for different.
It's kind of like The Running Man, but yeah, with an automotive twist.
Yeah, but it was before Running Man.
Yeah,
it's 70s. It's the first. I think it might be one of the first acting episodes that's non-porn for Sylvester Stallone. And he played Machine Gun Joe. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Caveman. That was a funny movie.
I'm going back to like looking at like different movies and stuff like that. Things that just kind of outside, like, because I have seen a lot of movies, but I don't always remember names and stuff.
I'll throw out another. I've got two more on the list.
Okay.
And one of them is in honor of Jeff Harrison, Legal Vice. Okay. And he and I are the same generation. We're only about less than a year apart. And so we had the same tastes in a lot of things. And this is a B movie that when we were growing up, we thought was really cool. And it's called Night Riders.
Okay.
Knigh, Night Riders, right? And he and I used to goof off. It was a funny movie. I wouldn't say, when I was growing up, we watched that thing it would come on the TV and we'd watch it over and over again. Now it doesn't really hold up, but what it's about is about this culture of like circus performer type people who have this culture of where they joust with motorcycles.
Okay.
And they joust with these motorcycles. And in real life, it's like real stuntmen jousting. It's like really incredible. And then it's this circus performer kind of culture that grows up around it, where they actually feel like they're knights, and they have the honor system. And it's Ed Harris. Ed Harris.
Oh yeah, Ed Harris. Yeah.
And the second one, who's the director of this? Let me see. Look it up here real quick. It's actually the teaser block on this stream was from the Night Riders, and Jeff Harrison and I used to geek out on Night Riders.
Okay.
Let's see. Who was it? Hold on a minute. It's got an 80% Rotten Tomatoes score, so that's not bad. Yeah, George Romero, and it's got Tom Savini in it. Tom Savini is also,
visual effects for the Dead movies,
and also he was in the Dawn of the Dead. He was the lead. He's kind of the Italian guy who was the bad guy that came into the mall at the end. Yeah, the leader of the biker gang. So he's the leader of the bad biker gang in this one too. So if you haven't seen it, don't expect a lot. Okay, if your expectations are low, you might be entertained. But it's just for the stunts and it's just a good movie. It's a good, well-written, kind of clever movie, and I liked it when I was a kid, and I'm just bringing it out. All right, you kind of get the feel there.
Yeah, I'm getting the feel.
This is hard. This is a hard category. Hard.
Yeah. I kind of wish I had the categories ahead of time. I could have put together a better list.
Well, here's my next
one. I feel like I'm dragging my feet here.
That's okay. Here's my next one, and this is my third one. And I only have three in the category, three or four, and that's Circle of Iron. I've brought this one up before. Okay. Circle of Iron is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's absolutely a B movie. Have you ever heard of Circle of Iron?
I have not actually.
So you've got two movies to watch now. Circle of Iron. Here's what it is. It was written by Bruce Lee.
Okay.
So it was Bruce Lee wrote the movie. It was his own script, kind of like he was going to do Rocky for himself. And so he wrote this movie about his philosophy and he was going to play in he was going to act in the movie that he wrote. But he got to be a big movie star, and it kind of got sidelined, and he never did it. He kind of got too big for his britches, and it just never developed. But he had this whole man. And after Bruce Lee died, David Carradine bought the script. And David Carradine stars, I think he's 5 different characters in the movie. And he produced it and put it out, and it's Bruce Lee's script. David Carradine stars, and it's an excellent. I love the philosophy in it. I love the visuals. It's filmed in Israel, and so the visuals are really stunning. These on location visuals, and it's kind of a kung fu philosophy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of when David Carradine was big in kung fu. So
yeah, going with that, like a movie that was basically was a low budget, came out, flopped at the box office, but later gained more cult status. I'm actually going to go with one that I'm pretty sure everybody knows and loves at this point. And some people might have a very different reaction. I know this is kind of a divisive movie. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm kind of in the middle. And I'm going to say The Big Lebowski.
Oh, you think that's low budget?
15 million.
Okay, that's not low budget, but
actually, for the time that it was made on for only 15 million, and it
you're finishing
really
out. This is actually a good trend. Let me hold this thought, because I'll introduce the last category, and that is almost low budget movies that are worth seeing. Okay, so ones that maybe exceed the budget limits a little bit, that are maybe a little less known, but that are really good movies. And The Big Lebowski, I would put in that.
Okay.
Category. All right. So
that's fair.
All right. So that will be your, go ahead. And I interrupted your saying, but you're transitioning to the next category, which is, okay, we're going to cheat and say, let's throw a few more bucks in the kitty. But these are movies that are overlooked, sleepers maybe, that are not big budget movies, that are not big successful, but I would highly recommend. So what would you put in there? Here's a couple good ones. Comedy, no budget.
The
original was low budget. Okay, well, here's one that So here's one that would fit that category, and this is a Lost in Translation.
Okay,
have you heard that one?
Yeah, that was Tom Hanks, if I remember right.
No, not Tom Hanks. It was Bill Murray.
Oh, that one. Okay, I'm thinking of. Okay, for a second there, I thought of The Terminal. No, that was okay. Lost in Translation. Bill Murray.
I love that movie. That is a great movie, and it's the scene where he's filming the commercial in Japan. It's just great. Now I think it was Sofia Coppola who actually. I think it had a budget of $4 million, so that's pretty low. But it's a very artistic movie. It's divisive. I mean, it's not everybody likes it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's about kind of culture shock and Bill Murray going to Japan and not understanding anything that's going on. And the commercial scene is great, and highly recommend that movie. So do you understand what I'm saying? This is where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some.
Well, I'll throw another one out.
Okay.
Let me see. Hold on a second. Got on my right. And this one somebody suggested in the thing chat, and I didn't have it down, but I think it might be in this category. And that's a movie called Convoy.
Okay, I remember that one. Yeah,
Convoy.
It's
got the lead is Chris Christopherson, and he's the rubber duck.
Okay.
And it's if you want a window into kind of 70s trucker culture.
Oh yeah, that movie was big in the 70s.
Yeah, this is difficult. That's why we're doing it. This is not. These are tough categories, right? I'm even stumping the master himself right here.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's hard to really put into into context. I mean, it's just. So I'm trying to find.
I'm just putting categories. I'm trying to because these are things that you might want to go, and I would recommend hey, you need to go see this movie. It's a good movie, and Convoy cost $12 million. See, we're kind of exceeding. I didn't know that. All right. Well,
okay.
Somebody suggested that wasn't on my original list. I added it, so it's you guys getting me in trouble.
I mean, if you want to go for another Spielberg flick.
Okay.
That was actually really it's more of a thriller than anything. It's actually Spielberg's first movie that has kind of gone on to have quite a bit of success. Like, I mean, it's not really talked about as much now because I think it's a little dated, but also in that vein of like, the truck movies from back in the day, Duel.
Oh,
So that
right.
was
Duel.
actually, yeah, Duel was his first movie. And yeah, about the rogue semi truck terrorizing a guy on the highway across the Southwest.
Uh-huh.
And say that's a classic. Um, hmm,
Well, here's one that's let me see. Let me just check here real quick. I'm
yeah.
paranoid about okay, this is a low budget, and this one is an excellent movie. Excellent movie. And budget was 1.6 million.
Okay.
It might be 1.2 million. But it's a Canadian movie. It's called Meatballs, the first Bill Murray movie. And
Okay.
it was a big hit, and it was a great movie. I loved that movie when I was a kid. And it was about summer camp and the old days. And nowadays everybody, I don't even know if summer camp exists. Now everybody's got their cell phones, But
Mm-hmm.
very low budget, but also a movie that I'd highly recommend. So I'm
Okay.
running out of somebody said Warriors. Do you know the Warriors? Do you know about
Oh,
that
the
movie?
Warriors, yeah, I want to say 78, something
Do
like
you know
that.
about that one? It's a movie.
79, yeah, about the group of, guys from Coney Island. They, have to get back to Coney Island after, going across the city. It's just it's almost this kind of hero's journey. It's very wild. It's very kind of psychedelic in a way.
Hmm.
But yeah, they start out in one corner of the city and they just have to try and travel home after being wrongfully accused of taking out this guy who's trying to reunite all the gangs of New York. And
Hmm.
yeah, that ends up being like, just them getting a home is the big thing, is trying to do that. And yeah, Warriors come out and play. That was, yeah, the big line from that movie. It's
Now let
been a
me
while
see.
since I've
I
seen that
gotta
one, but
see
yeah.
now. I'm getting a little paranoid because I gotta check my budgets. Check my budgets before I throw this stuff out. Wait a
Hmm.
second. 1 second. I've got one more candidate here. Can you think of anything that doesn't fit any of these categories that
Okay. I mean, if you're talking about something that was kind of, I mean, low budget, but is worth seeing and actually grossed well over its original intended budget. I mean, you might as well talk about the original George Lucas movie, American Graffiti, and say
right? Okay, I
that's an
was
old
thinking
school
about.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, American Graffiti, that's classic.
Of course, that wasn't his
And
first movie. That was his second movie.
well, okay, yeah, THX 1138 was technically his first movie, although I mean, feature length, we're have to give that one to American Graffiti, and then of course Star Wars came after that. So mm, yeah, it's arguable that actually because of the success of THX 1138 and American Graffiti, that's how Lucas was able to actually get enough money to bankroll the original Star Wars, which we know how that ended up.
All right. Well, here's my last one that I have. So American Graffiti is a good one, um, and that's a show called My Bodyguard, and it was with Chris Makepeace, who was I always
Okay.
liked Chris Makepeace. He had these really dramatic eyes. He was a good
Hmm.
child actor. He was in a lot of kind of good movies. I don't know whatever happened to him, but he probably made enough money off his original stuff that he
Hmm.
lives his life happily. But Chris Makepeace in My Bodyguard, the original, I think it was remade. But it's about a kid who gets bullied. He hires this tough kid, or he makes a deal with the tough kid, the scary kid,
Hmm.
to guard him. And I forget who else is in that movie. Let me look it up real quick. It's got Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon,
Okay.
and he was Matt Dillon was a bad guy. Very good movie. So I'd put that one. So there we go. That's my show. That's all my. I'm done with my list. If the chat wants to chime in with others, it's
Okay.
air. The people say Airplane was 3.5 million. That might fit
Yeah,
into that.
Airplane had a small budget for the time, and it was amazing that I mean, a lot of that movie really comes down to the writing, the timing, and the fact that they I mean, they just kept the jokes running on that. It actually has the world record for jokes per minute of any movie like ever
Oh
made.
yeah, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's a good one. So let me see here. Does anybody in the chat here have any other good ideas relative to the topic at hand? Creature from the Black Lake. I don't know that one. Do you know that one?
Yeah, that's an old one. Yeah.
I don't. I
It's
don't
not
know
one I've really seen too
Orgasmo
much of.
either. Is Orgasmo a real movie?
It wasn't, or it was a real movie, but it was one of those where I remember that one being in at the Blockbuster, where like, whenever that was like the popular one when I was in high school. And I mean, I didn't see it, but it's one of those I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
hmm. I'm trying to think of one. I'm
Let me
actually trying to.
Okay,
There's one I'm thinking of right
What?
now. I'm
Mhm.
trying to check to make sure that it fits the genre, so to speak.
You got to
Um,
look up the budget, right?
yeah, it's what I'm having to do. I got to remind myself because okay, well, 1984, 14.5 million. Okay, I mean it was a flop, but I think it deserves a look. But that doesn't really fit.
Which one
Never
is it?
mind. Streets of Fire. So that's kind of a weird one. Now it's a bit of an obscure movie. It was low budget. Or technically, I mean, it was made on 14.5 million back in 1984, so it wasn't a huge budget even back then, but it was still a decent size. And the movie was a flop. I mean, it only grossed $8 million, but it became a big hit in Japan. It was actually way bigger in Japan than it was here in the United States. I think it ended up actually grossing like almost 20 million in Japan. It was just alone. But, that was well after its theatrical run here in the States, so it doesn't really get counted. And Streets of Fire it's a decent movie. It's actually pretty good. It's got Rick Moranis and a couple of other actors in it. I think it's kind of, it defies genre, really. It's actually one of the early ones with Willem Dafoe in it.
Ah,
But what I will say is that it actually inspired a really cool scene in actually one of my favorite like other genres of all time, which is anime. So yeah, I'm a big anime guy. I'm not gonna lie about that. But one of the things so Streets of Fire actually was such an inspiration to the guys that actually made the series called Bubblegum Crisis over there, AIC. It was such an inspiration that they actually did kind of a Streets of Fire homage in the first episode of the show. And like they had singers like signed on and everything. It was really like for the time, like in what they were doing was extremely ambitious. And it was they did a lot of like a big hat tip to Streets of Fire in that. So I think it's one of those you don't really think about who it's going to affect. I mean, yeah, we can look at the budget, how much it made here and whatnot, and then like over time, it's gone on to have kind of a bit more of a cult following. So I
okay.
still think it's worth watching, though.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else in the chats that wants to add in here? Let's see. We've got. I'm looking for where we can redirect people, and I think I've got a. Remember when we do this, you've got to do the whole Ghazni raid thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do a change up. This is a little unusual. So this is the people that are
Okay.
here definitely need to scream Ghazni raid when they do it. Okay, is that fair enough? Oh,
There you go.
Lost Boys is expensive, but that's a great one. I love that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Fog.
Tim Capello. That's a good movie.
All right. So we're going to end it here. And thank you for my buddy Kaizer. Where can they find you, Kaizer?
Oh, they can find me here on the YouTubes and the Rumble and on X at Kaizer Pineapple, although on X, Kaiser is spelled with a Z, so just FYI. But yeah, just look for the pineapple and you'll find me with the sunglasses. And I'm trying to get some new videos out. Right now, we are in the month of January, which is usually a very dry, very much the time of year when the studio dumps all of its garbage and for the most part doesn't do a whole lot. It's mostly tax write-off season for us in entertainment industry. But as things get closer to February, we're going to have some more stuff coming up. And then, of course, I'm trying to do some game streams on top of that to kind of supplement as until we get into more of the news. But we've got plenty of things coming out. February, Captain America 4 is coming out. I will be covering that one as well as a whole bunch of others. And yeah, just hit me up.
All right. Hey, thanks for everybody showing up. And Clerks was on the week added Clerk. That was an audience recommendation. So, all right. And so we're going to direct you to Law and Lumber, which is a little unusual. So I'm going to send you
go say hey to Rob.
So just hang out for a few minutes and just go over there and say Gosney Raid. All right. So I'm gonna hang it up here and thank you
The
all.
Wizard
God
of
bless
Oz
you.
and the pineapple sent you.
Yeah. Good to see you. Good night.